Welcome to an episode of Historically Marked. I am Jason in downtown Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and I'm just not too far within PNC Park where the Pittsburgh Pirates are playing tonight. They're playing against Boston Red Sox for those who care. But anyway, I am going to do a marker today where the first World Series was held. But was it really the first World Series? Well, we'll find out in just a moment. But yes, PNC Park is just down that way. There's a lot of Pirates fans walking the street. And then I'm just going to read off this marker here. All right, so ironically tonight they're playing Boston, but over here at the first World Series in October 1903, the National League champion Pittsburgh played American League champion Boston in Major League Baseball's first modern World Series. Boston won the best-of-9 series, 5-3. Prominent players included Pittsburgh's Honus Wagner and Boston's Cy Young. Games 4 through 7 were played near this side of Exposition Park, Pittsburgh's home from 1891 to 1909. Now, I thought about going to PNC Park tonight, but you know, there's a string of fans over there because I do want to check out the Honus Wagner and Roberto Clemente statues there, but maybe for another time, next time I'm in Pittsburgh. But the reason I do bring this up, if it's official, now most baseball historians refuse to think this was an actual World Series. But in 1904, there was no World Series, and I'll explain why. But every year since 1905 has a World Series game been played, except for 1994. Some of us are old enough to remember the 1994 unpopular strike that took place, and that was when arguably, you know, MLB and the players exposed greed. And, you know, it doesn't matter what side you take. I mean, either way, greed had something to do with it. But getting back to the first World Series. All right, so Exposition Park goes back to 1891, as it says on here. And the Pirates were formed just 2 years later. And, of course, it goes without saying, they're one of the oldest teams ever in Major League Baseball. Now, over the years, of course, there's a lot of sticky history between, like, professional baseball. Like, yes, the National League had been around for a long time, since the 1870s, and then there was the American Association, not to be confused with the American League of today. But the American Association collapsed in 1891, and then the National League was unchallenged for, you know, many years. And then beginning in 1893 and continuing until divisional play was introduced in 1969, the pennant was awarded to the first place club in the standings at the end of the season. And then from 1894 to 1897, in other words 4 seasons, the league champions played the runners-up in the postseason championship called the Temple Cup. And then that didn't happen again until 1900. And then in 1901, the American League was formed again as a second major league. Well, I shouldn't say again. But no championship series were played in 1901 or 1902 because there was definitely a very bitter rivalry between the two leagues. Like all the teams as a whole, including the owners, the fans, I mean, they were very bitter. I mean, they fought each other for business supremacy. And then even in 1902, the top teams had even thought of opting to compete in a football championship, in which they did. But the reason it really wasn't considered official, the World Series in 1903, was there was really no set of rules. Now, a lot of rules, they had to be agreed on by both parties, meaning both the American League and National League. I don't even think at the time there was a commissioner of baseball. But goes without saying, it all started right here. And yeah, I mean, if you want to recognize the first World Series here, that was great. And by the way, there's also a rumor that the World Series was named the World Series because it was sponsored by New York World newspaper. Not true. That's just according to Snopes, but I thought I'd throw that trivia tidbit in there. And I'm not entirely sure where the Exposition Park once stood, but it did say near the site, so it wouldn't surprise me if it was somewhere literally right in front of me. But the Pirates played their last World Series there in 1909 against the Chicago Cubs. All right, thanks so much for tuning into this episode of Historically Marked. I am Jason, just outside the historical marker of the first World Series played here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And I'm actually in between PNC Park and Great River Stadium. So if you want to know where it is. All right, I am Jason, signing off.